first of all, maybe introductions first,
Yes.
because I've met both of you individually, but I don't know if you guys know each other.
We talked a little bit, and Aurore participated in some of our tournaments with the AFK, but outside of this, I'm not sure we talked in real life. Well, go ahead, Aurore.
Well, I'm the author of Time Shapers. I write a blog. I'm a competitive player. I started my journey at the UKGE, where I went 4-2, which was just enough to keep me motivated to try and get better. I then went to Krakow, where I managed to get top 4 and top 16 in the Sealed and Archon. And after that, I managed to get to win the Belgian Grand Championship. So that's kind of my Keyforge performance. Recently, I also got third place in the Glorious Few Invitational, which was great fun. Keyforge related. I also have a podcast with my significant other, Textlat. And yeah, it's been fun.
You forgot to mention that you also made it to second day of Shadow Worlds very recently.
Oh yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel so good because I got to do the top 16 and then I got knocked out the first round. So it feels like
yeah. That's always sad.
Like I also made day 2 in the Utrecht Gun Championship, but that also didn't feel good because I got knocked out in the first round.
Yeah, I totally understand because I got knocked out in Utrecht on day 2 and first round as well.
Yeah, I got the first round bye though, so I was like top 16, I think.
So my name is Petitbot. I am a French guy, and I am the vice president of the AFK, which is a very recent organization. We are actually an association, so it's the French Association for Keyforge. We have started for the last few weeks to really organize a lot of tournaments, online tournaments, of course, because of the lockdown. And for my personal record, I made it to top 16 in the French Grand Championship, and I also made it to day 2 in the Grand Championship in Utrecht in the Netherlands. But outside of this, I didn't participate in anything else, so I didn't make any other results.
Yeah, if you didn't play, you can't make results.
Exactly. And that's all. I also write a bit of content online as well as you do, Aurore, but I do not make as much. I only have like 2 or 3 articles because I'm too lazy to make more. But when I found a subject that I really like and I really want to talk about, it takes me a lot of time to write about it, and usually it's pretty big articles.
Yeah.
And the subject we are going to talk about today is one I actually talked about in a very recent article.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how I came up to that is I think I listened to your podcast, Aurore, and I think you were mentioning some of the tournaments you were organizing and the kind of rules you were setting up, banning certain cards, setting a cap to the SAS level of the deck.
Yeah, so I've been running SAS limit tournaments for about, I think, 6 weeks now. We do a double elimination bracket, which is really fun because you get to play your game whenever it's available. You don't have to wait around for rounds to end. Also, the format for double elimination makes sure that you always feel like you're still in the game for as long as you keep on playing, and you don't feel like like in Swiss, if you go you lose the first round and then you can't win anymore because of how it works. So it's more interesting for the long run. I also banned 2 cards permanently, which is 2 of the 3 cards that Petitbot also bans. And I also do a rotation of temporary bans just to shake it up a little.
Okay.
Well,
and on your end, Petitbot, if I'm understanding correctly, the kind of casual tournaments that the French Association is setting up are also have a ban list, and basically the 3 cards that that you are mentioning in your article.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because we also started doing this 6 weeks ago. So is it like coincidence, or maybe we are starting to understand what Keyforge needs? I don't know. But we have the same thing, like with a ban list and with a SAS limit. We know both of them are not perfect, but it's a good way to make tournaments more enjoyable for everyone. And what we do as well is like we try to implement a lore in our tournaments. So the first one, it was like the beginning of the lockdown. So everyone had to have like a diss in one of the decks they had. Then we were searching for a way to cure the disease. So everyone had the logos. Then and we had a kind of a little lore around all of this. And now we are at the end of this tournament.
Yeah, it was a really fun idea, and I enjoyed participating, but I wasn't able to join in on the banter and the server because it was all in French, which is why I stopped playing.
It was very mainly French, of course. Yeah.
Talking about the cards that you both thought would be problematic, my assumption when we looked at this chapter was very much you didn't consider that they should be banned for a competitive Keyforge. It was more for to keep the game fun and entertaining at more of a casual level.
Go ahead, Aurore, because I know what I want to say, but I would like to hear what you have to say before.
Okay. Well, I banned Heart of the Force because it can create unfun situations. It's not about a power thing. No Heart of the Force deck has ever made any significant showing in any tournament. So it's not about how strong the card is. Although SAS does not rate it in any kind of reasonable manner, like the SAS score of Heart of the Force was between 1 and 2. So that is a little, not proportional to the strength it is in the actual deck. Like if you have the way to support Heart of the Forest, then obviously it's much stronger than a SAS score of 2. With Martian Generosity, I just think that SAS completely undervalues it in a lot of situations. Like the range of SAS for Martian Generosity is between 2 and 7. With like my Jenka deck, it has like a 5.4. Yeah, Charfler has a 5.4 SAS, which is really low for what it does in the deck. Like it's a super important card and it should bump for at least 5 more points. I'm actually running another tournament in 2 weeks on the 30th of May on Saturday. It's going to be Swiss rounds into double elimination bracket top cut, and you're going to play best of 1 triad with a combined SAS limit for all 3 decks of 200. And in that tournament, I do not ban Martian Generosity. I only ban Heart of the Forest, and I add a tax of 5 points for Martian Generosity. So if you want to run a Martian Generosity deck, you can, but it costs you 5 extra SAS points.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's my reasoning for those 2.
What do you think about applying it not only to casual tournaments, but also to like more official tournaments organized by Asmodee or FFG?
Well, Heart of the Forest is a bad card. I don't like it. It creates weird situations with tiebreakers where you want to play slow, but it goes against the spirit of the game. So you kind of have to sort of play slow, and it just creates unsponsored behavior. Like if you don't have artifact control and your opponent has Heart of the Forest, you have no incentive to play faster because you are going to lose eventually. It's just a matter of time. And if you can get to the time call, then you can win. So it's really a weird situation for competitive play. So I would like Heart of the Forest to not exist, not be available at all in competitive play. But that obviously, I don't think they're going to do that, especially since it doesn't actually perform in competitive play. So they're probably not going to cut it. But I really would prefer it didn't. And regarding Martian Generosity, while there are some very strong decks, Fantasy Flight Games have introduced a number of tools to deal with it. Like there's Born Its Touch that can remove it from the deck. There's Infernuses if it's in the discard pile. Can we do spoilers here? So Mass Mutations has a card called Something's Jar, which is an artifact that you play, and you name a card and that card can't be played. So that's extremely strong against combo decks.
Yeah, but it's a rare, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's a rare, but in Archon tournaments, you're gonna see them from time to time, and it's gonna stop your combo.
Yep. It's an artifact and it's a discard, if I'm correct also.
Yeah.
Well, I kinda agree with you. I don't think there is ever going to be a ban list in official events. I don't think they are going to do it because it would be against basically how they market the game, and that might be a problem. Even if it could be good, I don't think they are going to do it. And regarding the cards themselves, I agree totally with you concerning Heart of the Forest. It's really a very bad design card. It's unfun for both competitive players as well as for starting players because they can really misunderstand the card and feel like they can't do anything. And it can be a very bad first experience if you play your first game with a Heart of the Forest deck. And for Martian Generosity, I think it is a real problem. To me, the card shouldn't really not exist because when you have this card in a deck, I feel like the deck instantly becomes at least twice as good as it would be without the card. And I don't think that a card should ever have this effect on any deck. And I don't think that there's any other card that has the same effect as Martian Generosity. And the real problem to me with this card is not only that it has a great combo with Key Abduction, which is very, very, very strong, but we have seen also in the Shadow Worlds or in other online tournaments involving very strong decks that even without Key Abduction, it can be very, very strong because it brings a lot of consistency to your deck. Because once you have half your deck or even your whole deck in your hand, all the rest of your combos become very reliable. So we have seen some decks which involve like the Gangernut combo. So when you have everything in hand, you just have to board wipe and Gangernut. And there are also other combos, and it makes everything very, very consistent. So even outside of the Genka combo, I feel like the card is too strong. And I don't see a way to balance it. If I think, how can I errata this card? I don't have an idea of how I could do it. I have a good idea for Key Abduction. I think Key Abduction should be only most cards in hand, reduce the cost by 1, and not all cards, and this would be totally fine with me. But for Martian Generosity, I have no idea how we could balance it.
I do have an idea for how to errata Heart of the Forest, though. If you change Heart of the Forest to instead of cannot forge a key to the key cost +6 or even +9, then it fixes the card.
Yeah, and that would bring a lot of fun because it would be so typical these games where you have keys that cost like +6 or 7. It would be like it would really be fun because it would be something that you never experience otherwise. While not being able to forge at all is like really unfun.
Yeah.
Something also is interesting is that the system of ban list, I don't think it's a perfect tool at all. I think it's only another tool that we could put in place in order to reduce the pay-to-win effect that is very strong and very present, I think, now in Keyforge. Maybe you don't agree on this, Aurore. How do you feel about the pay-to-win in Keyforge right now if you look at the competitive scene?
It's a weird balance. Like suddenly, if you have a stronger deck, then you have an edge, and some of the stronger decks can be rather expensive. But I opened all my very competitive decks, and while I did open about 300 decks, I had a lot of competitive decks there, like at least 10. So I don't think it's that pay to win. Like obviously, my decks are not Pink Fraud or Gasoline, Maximiliano, but they're pretty strong, and I can compete with them in the highest level. And obviously, I can win a Grand Championship with one of the decks that I opened. Then I think it's not that bad. But I do like I do this SAS limitation more so we can actually play with our entire collection instead of and rather than just playing with the top 2-3% of our decks, because I have a lot of very interesting decks in around 60 to 65 SAS, and I want to play with them, and I want to play them competitively. I just don't want to just play casual games on TCO. And that SAS cap allows us to explore our collection. Like when I search for a deck for a SAS limit event, I do a search on my collection, and there's like 120 decks that qualify. If I go into a top level competitive game like the Glorious Few or Shadow Walls, I have 3 decks I can take, maybe 5 if I like stretch it, and that's not that many.
This is very true. The fact that when we put a SAS cap or SAS limit to our tournaments, we experience actually a new experience of Keyforge, because we play decks that we don't get the opportunity to play otherwise, outside of maybe chain bounce or this type of things, is really cool. I actually discovered some of my own decks that I didn't really take a look at because they weren't really playable outside of the tournaments that we organize. And this is absolutely amazing, because I feel like a lot of decks are very interesting, the same way as you said it, between 62, 68, SAS. There are a lot of decks that are very, very interesting. They have some flaws, but there are also a lot of things that you can do with them, and that's very interesting.